One of the things I figured out that I really like to do is restore beat up guitars. There's just something about like those old machines that were out there that somebody once loved that completely fell apart. You know, these are precision machines, or at least some of them are, and it kind of makes me sad to think about them not being able to be used. So here we have a guitar that's been in my possession for, I guess, a couple years at this point. It is an Aria Pro 2 RS Stray Cat. This is a 1980s shredder, and this neck, like, again, if you're not a guitar person, you probably don't get it, but this is like a pre-Wizard absolute shredder neck, like really flat, probably a 12-inch, maybe a 16-inch fretboard radius, still nice and straight, very playable, you know, fantastic neck. The body is just beat to hell. This had a Fender TBX tone pot, which was interesting, but like, check out this, you know, engineering right here. I'll just put a dowel rod in it where the jack was supposed to go, and then I'll put a different thing in there and they'll give me something to screw to. Like, okay, cool. All that's gonna have to come out. Then there's all this fantastic artwork that's been carved into the finish. And, you know, cool as that may be, it's gotta go. I am not by any stretch of the imagination like a professional luthier, and every time I do one of these I learn something. This is not a how-to. Like, I'm gonna do some stuff that I've never done before, and I'm gonna hope for the best, and if I screw it up, well, it can't be any more screwed up than it already is, right? I guess that's the first chunk of wisdom, if there is any, that you glean from watching anything I make. And it's that if something's broken or unusable, you risk nothing by trying to fix it yourself. You can't make it more broken than it is. And if you do, then what did you really lose if it was broken in the first place? Nothing. But you always learn something. So give it a shot. You know, like, I'm not recommending that you do this kind of stuff with like a 59 burst Les Paul, right? But this is like stuff that you find in a pawn shop. Really easy to get your hands on. Make it playable, make it nice, and then when you're done, you know, the world is full of kids that want to learn how to play guitar. Give it away. You never know what you might spark. Even if it's just a decoration, it's still something. So give it a shot and follow along and try not to be too critical, and let's have fun. All right. So the methodology that I'm going to employ here, the neck is in pretty good shape. You know, first things first, the body is going to have to get stripped down. And there's a dozen different ways to do it. There's chemical strippers. There's sanding the heck out of it. I'm just going to use a heat gun, right? And we'll show you kind of how that works. Then we're going to sand everything down to bare wood. Then we're going to seal it all up again. Take out any gouges or anything like that. Now, luckily, I think most of the carving, the artwork, it's just in the finish itself, right? So I don't anticipate that it's going to get down into the wood. Once we get it down to bare wood, we're going to address the hole that someone so artfully put in the top. We're going to plug these holes with dowel so that that's ready to be re-drilled when the time comes. Once everything's in tip-top shape, and we got it all sanded down so that all of the issues have been addressed, we're going to prep it for paint. Here's the thing. I'm terrible at painting. I'm not gonna lie. Like, aerosol can painting is like the bane of my existence. I am not a patient person at all. The idea of, you know, spraying something, you know, doing 10 minutes worth of work, and then like not touching it for 24 to 48 hours, or in some cases like 3 or 4 or 5 days. No, like I can't do it. I always end up getting into it too early, and I always end up messing up my finish. I'm going to try not to do that this time. Let's see what happens. This is probably where the voiceover starts. Okay, so we can pretty obviously see here, like in general, the way guitars are made, right? It's not a single solid, it's not a single piece of wood. What you have here are 3 chunks of what looks to be bass or alder. I'm not really sure. This one being this dark, I have no idea what that could be. But you have a chunk of wood that runs up this way. You have a chunk of wood that runs up the middle. And you have a chunk of wood that runs up the side right here. They get glued together to make a plank that is big enough to cut the shape of the guitar out of. And then they slather that sucker with sealant to give it a nice flat smooth surface, and then they go ahead and they spray paint the heck out of it to make it look like glass. These 3-piece bodies, a lot of time if it's a painted body, these are not premium looking pieces of wood that the factory will use. They'll grab whatever they've got available, and it's not bad, right? It just doesn't look, you know, as good. It doesn't have cool grain patterns or waves or anything like that, but this is decent. This is decent lumber, and I'm kind of inclined to make this a natural finish guitar. Probably not, but we'll see. I feel like I'm covered in sawdust. It's probably because I am. We're through the initial stage of removing finish from the guitar, right? So we're pretty much through all of the filler and all of that other good stuff. We got some spots where we got some remaining chunks, like here in the corners, but we're not gonna sweat that too much. Not yet, anyway. We got some other stuff that we need to do. Namely, we need to plug this hole. This whole thing is not supposed to be here. When the guitar was originally built, all there was a hole here for a standard jack, so the plug would go directly in. This is cut out for a Fender style. I want to get this back to what it was originally supposed to be. So we need to cut a piece of wood that matches the thickness of what's left of the top, right in there, and get that glued into place so that we can drill the proper hole for the way the jack is supposed to look. On top of that, it's probably a good idea to re-drill the 2 holes that form the pivot point for the bridge. All we're going to do here is fill those with dowel that are set up to match whatever the diameter of the hole is, and later on, when it is time to reposition the bridge, we'll make sure that we re-drill those into fresh clean wood, and once it's all painted, it'll be rock solid, 100% functional. Okay, so here we go, trying to fill in this hole. We've reached the stage where it's time to re-drill the holes for the bridge pins. Got some tips to share. I gotta go back into the bag of parts. Okay, now this particular guitar is outfitted with a tremolo bridge. Specifically, it's a 2-point tremolo bridge. What does that mean? It means that it has a fitting that allows for you to use a tremolo bar, a whammy bar, whatever. Think of like 1980s Eddie Van Halen. Wow, wow, wow. Normally, I don't like a tremolo bridge on a guitar. I'm a hardtail guy. I don't do a lot of bending. I don't do dive bombs. But my son is probably going to be the one to use this, and since it's what the guitar came with originally, it's difficult to really turn it into anything else. So this 2-point trem, right? If you look here, you can see that you got these little notches. Now, what are those notches for? Those notches ride in these little bolts right here. Now, these bolts secure directly into the body of the guitar by way of these little threaded inserts, right? Now you see you got these nice little ridges on them. See that that's all focused in. Cool. Over time, what can happen is, you know, the wood, I mean, it's just a mechanical grip, right? Like, so you drill a hole that's slightly smaller than these ridges want, and then you push this down into the wood, and then those little ridges, right, are the thing that creates traction against the body of the guitar, so that, you know, when you're doing your wow 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 thing with the instrument, like, you're not ripping the trem, like the whole bridge off of the guitar. These holes that hold these inserts are stripped out. So in order to fix that, what we have to do is we need good wood for this to anchor to. This is the kind of thing that would be done by a professional luthier, which I am not. One of the tricks here is making sure that the holes are drilled dead straight into the body. That can be tricky. You don't want to do that freehand. A lot of people don't have a drill press. I do. I have one over there, but I kind of wanted to show off this little contraption here. What you have here is a poor man's drill press. It's just an extension of the chuck. So I can put a regular drill into this device, and this plate makes sure that when I go to drill, I am perfectly perpendicular, straight up and down. Good? Makes sense? All right, we're gonna use it. Now, the thing to do here, right, is to drill a hole that is bigger than the hole that was originally there, size to fit a dowel rod that we're later gonna pound into place. In this case, we are using 3/8 inch dowel. Whoa, that was definitely not good. It's okay. We'll make it right. So the mistake that I just made there is I didn't first chuck my bit. Hey, that happens. The second mistake that I made is that I did not reverse as I was starting to drill the hole. If you hit the hole with reverse, it'll ream out the edges a little bit, and make it less likely that you will tear the wood out of the grain. Okay. I need to measure the depth that I'm going to drill to. As far as we want to go. Now, let us not make the same mistake that we made last time. Let's do this one correctly. Get it lined up. First, we hit it with reverse. Good. Turn it the other way. Much better. Okay. Clear the sawdust out. So now that that hole, or those two holes are drilled, we can fit our dowel rod directly down into those holes. A little tap, tap, tappy, tap, tap, tap-a-roo. But first we need to cut these to length. Now these dowel rods, we're going to pound those down into these holes, right? With a little bit of wood glue. Generally, when I'm working on guitars, I prefer Type Bond Original. It just seems less sloppy. But it's pretty much exactly what you would think. A little bit goes down the hole. A little bit goes on the dowel rod itself. And you just pound it in. Pretty good, pretty good, pretty good. Same on this side. A little bit goes down the hole. So on the dowel rod itself. Alright. And we pound it home. All the way. Alright. So our dowels are in place and they're properly seated and everything is correctly sized. This is the first time that we need to use a specialized tool, which is a flush cut saw. Okay. When I make an enormous mistake, like the one I just did, where I've got a significant amount of tear out, right? Super glue and baking soda can be your friend. All you do is you put a little glue in the place where you have an error, which I've already done, and then you sprinkle a little baking soda in there. Baking soda is an activator for the super glue. It will immediately absorb and it will become just as strong, if not stronger, than the wood that you originally had there. A thinner super glue is beneficial for things like this. But it cures almost immediately, and once it's sanded, you're not going to even be able to, well, sanded and painted, you're not even going to know that it was ever there. Okay, there you have it. So I think that's going to do it for today's attempt, or at least getting this thing started. We've got the body stripped down, all the paint is taken off. We have more finish sanding to do. We've got sealer to do. We got to make a color selection on this guitar. I don't know why, but there's something in me that's screaming this thing needs to be sparkly purple. I don't know. You let me know. Leave a comment below. Tell me what color you think the sucker needs to be. Next episode, we'll get that done. Start working on the neck. Thanks for watching.